Good morning. Today we're going to have another story. We're going to talk about Redman. The last video I put out was about the divisional tournament that I fished on Lake Winnipesaukee in 1985 while trying to find props for this tournament. I put down a few notes this time. I also came across a couple of other things from the 85 tournament. Here was found the plaque that had the names of all the guys on the state team. I got when I made that state team, and I found the third place trophy, confirming that I had remembered correctly that we finished for third place in that tournament. So I found some stuff from the only stuff I found from '85 as far as Redman's basically what BFL's is now, and it's basically probably the last remaining thing that a weekend guy can really fish a circuit and move on and you know get to something big, the All-American. So I looked up some of the history. The Redman circuit started in 1983, 10 divisions. In 1984, it expanded into the 17 divisions, one of them being the Northeast, and there's a lot of talk about it, local clubs and sports shows and stuff. So in '85, I decided to fish the the Redman circuit. So more travel, more new places. They started out on the Potomac River. I'd never been there before. And a thing that you hear a lot about practice. So at the Potomac River, I think I only had 1 day practice. It was 40 years ago. I might have practiced 2 days. The tournaments were Sunday back then. The BFL now is Saturday. Sunday made it more of a working man circuit because basically you practice Saturday, fish Sunday. Now with the Saturday format, you have to take a day off of work. So went out in practice. I caught one fish. So you'd think you were in big trouble, right? You just went to a new body of water, you caught one fish. Well, I caught that fish in Smoot Bay, and there was a number of other boats in there. And so the day of the tournament, I went to right where I caught that fish. It was like a weed edge bordering deep water, and I sat there throwing the point of this weed edge with a jig and pig. I caught a big bag. I don't know. Finished second in the tournament. The boat next to me on the weed bed finished third in the tournament, and then the guy on the other side of him finished first in the tournament. So, something I learned from fishing Potomac in the spring and the other Upper Bay as well, those Maryland tidal waters. If you're in the right place, there's usually a crowd. So I found a piece of paper here showed that I was leading after 4 tournaments I was leading the standings. And this list of names, I was glad I found this because this is really when I started meeting some more notable anglers. Here, second place is Bill Albright. He Pennsylvania guy that ran a circuit, and he was on the top 100 at the time. Randy Romig, he finished second at the 91 Classic, was a pretty notable full-time pro, probably one of the most successful pros from the Northeast, and in the 80s, and I think he might even fished into the 70s. Another angler that I first met on this circuit was Herb Reed. Herb Reed's owns Lunker City Boat. He invented the Sluggo, which will become important in a future video. Dick Garlock, people might have heard of him. He was he qualified for a classic through the Federation, and he was the go-to guy for Thousand Islands. He was on made Bassmaster TV show interviews. He ran a camera boat up there. Anytime they were at the Thousand Islands, Dick Garlock was a name. Bob Dobert's another pro from Maryland that was fishing that circuit. So what I misremembered, I found the final thing here was the standings for the year. I ended up finishing 7th. And what I do remember is when the top 24 at that time went to a regional classic. And that was on Kerr Reservoir. So in 1985, there wasn't a lot of information. I never really sought information when I went to a tournament. I went down to this Kerr Reservoir, and what I knew about fishing at the time, being in the Northeast, I had a lot of experience in tidal water, a lot of experience in natural lakes, and in the tidal water you fish the current, and in natural lakes you fish the weeds. So I spent 2 days of practice on a Kerr looking for weeds. Well, there isn't a stitch of weeds in that lake, and there isn't. Okay. Also, I never fished a Highland, Mid-South reservoir like that before. They had this thing at Winter Pool, so the bank was basically 7 feet up there on the shore. So there was no laydowns, there was no weeds, and there's very little development on the lake, so there was no docks. So I had no clue what to do, and my results showed. Another thing that happened at that tournament is the first time I ever heard of David Fritz. David Fritz won that, and he won 3 of the 6 regional classics that I fished with Redman in the 80s. I found there's what you're looking for at Redman at the time, chewing tobacco, and that was the first place trophy. That's from 1987 on the Hudson River. So what I misremember, I figured out was probably the following season, 86. I was 4 tournaments in and mathematically locked into the top 24, where the point system, I couldn't get knocked out of the top 24, and being on a budget, and I was young and all that, fishing these things on the weekend, any place I could save a buck, I always tried to save a buck. And last tournament in that season was on Raystown Reservoir in Pennsylvania, and I never heard a good thing about this Raystown Reservoir, and there was no prize for being Angler of the Year, so I skipped it. I didn't go because I didn't need it to make the regional. And after the results of it afterwards, I did the math. If I had caught a single fish, I would have been Angler of the Year for Redman for the Northeast Division in 86. Something I never accomplished. And I always regretted never going to Raystown, and I still haven't been to Raystown. So one of these days, some tournament's going to take me to Raystown Reservoir in Pennsylvania, because I've expressed in the past, a big part of tournament fishing is just, it gives you a reason to go to these places that you can't bring yourself just to go. And I think Raystown's only less than 4 hours from my house, but I still haven't been there. One of these days. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Like, comment, subscribe. Some of you probably fished Redman back then, or if you fished the BFL now, share if you think it's a good path to moving on or doing something big. Thanks.